Mics on, please, gentlemen.
Oh, won't be in the mic?
No. It's gotta go before town
Blah,
meeting.
blah, blah, blah.
I didn't say sing, Larry.
I think I want that, right?
Yes. Welcome to this week's meeting of the Rockland Board of Selectmen, coming to you live on WRPS from the H. Bernard Monahan Memorial Room at Rockland Town Hall. On the agenda, we've got a farmers market update, the Vietnam War Memorial, and ambulance abatements. Now here's the chairman of the Board of Selectmen, Mr. Ed Kimball.
Good evening, and please all rise and join us for a Pledge of Allegiance. We have a veterans agent in attendance, if you wouldn't mind, Benny Fontaine, leading us. Flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Good evening. That's okay. You good?
Good to go.
Okay. Good evening and welcome. Please be advised that this open meeting is being broadcast live and recorded by WRPS for playback on Comcast Channel 14 and Verizon 31. It will also be available for online video-on-demand viewing at WRPSRockland.com within 24 hours of its conclusion, as are other recently recorded meeting and community events. Please go to WRPSRockland.com for further information. I just want to make a quick note that we have one of our select persons is running a few minutes late, but will be joining us shortly. And getting back to the WRPS Rockland, I was away on vacation, missed the last meeting, and I had the opportunity to actually utilize WRPSRockland.com the next day to watch the meeting. And it was actually sooner than 24 hours. So thank you, Dave, and very clear, and it was cool to be able to do that remotely. So.
Any critiques?
Yeah, the acting chairman did okay. You're happy with the performance?
Do we have, oh. Well, we have an actor for a president too, right? I couldn't help myself. No, actually, it was very good, Dave. It was good. Okay, under community announcements, do we have anything tonight? We have the 99 thing that's going on, I think, tonight. That was announced last week as Friends of the Library.
Friends of the library.
Yeah. Okay.
I think
So-
we'll miss it with the meeting.
We may, but I just want to remind the public out there that Dining for a Cause is at the 99 in Rockland tonight, and it's from 5 to 9 p.m. So if you can get out and support the library, that'd be great. Okay, meeting minutes. Item number 2, open session minutes of March 6th. Would you like to take over? They were your minutes.
I make a motion to approve, obviously.
Second.
All those in favor? And I'll abstain because I wasn't here. Under agenda items, we're going to take one item out of order. Item number 6, report of the Zone and Bylaw Review Committee accessory units. Our land use council attended that meeting. He's here tonight, so we're trying to get him off to another meeting. Mr. Galvin?
Good evening, members of the board, and public. At just after 4:30 this afternoon, I attended the Bylaw Review Committee meeting. The principal purpose of that meeting was to review the proposed accessory apartment bylaw. We have been working on that for some time, basically trying to structure a way that we can allow accessory apartments by right in certain zoning districts of the town. And I had created a draft article that we've been reviewing. And following the last selectmen's meeting, there were some questions regarding some of the language and some that came out of the bylaw review committee. So we had a further meeting today to kind of finalize those language questions. And I believe you have now in front of you a draft bylaw that includes all of the questions, comments, concerns, and is basically the product of the bylaw review committee in its entirety. So the few remaining issues had to do with the proposed addition to the new section of the bylaw, 41532M, subparagraph 2.
Yep.
Now, in the R2, 3, and 4 residence districts, any increase in the size of the main dwelling unit will meet all yard setback requirements. And I think that satisfies all interested parties' concerns. We revised the last section, M5, and we've agreed on failure to allow an inspection shall result in the loss of the right to maintain the accessory apartment. And we made some kind of wordsmithing changes to some of the introductory language to make it clearer. These were non-substantive changes. So I think we're in pretty good shape now with something that the bylaw review committee thinks unanimously is acceptable. Hopefully it meets the spirit of what we were trying to accomplish by allowing accessory apartments by right in a large area of the town, and you'll still be able to get them in the R1 in all business districts, but you'll need a special permit from the Zoning Board of Appeals.
So having served on that committee, what had happened at the last meeting was there were some edits that were made that unfortunately the documents that the board had in the book weren't the correct edits, so there was a little bit of confusion in the presentation. So when I had observed the meeting and remotely the next morning, we had determined that there was a couple of issues with some of the things as they were presented as previously voted. So we called another meeting, which we had today. We were able to work out the language so that it meets the intention of what the Zone and Bylaw Committee was trying to do, and I think we've accomplished that. And now it's before the board for vote, so we can add it to the town warrant. And I believe Mr. Galvin has made all the corrections, because we went through the document piece by piece, and Mr. Galvin was able to actually update it during the meeting and get it upstairs. So you have the correct document now in your books. So I don't know if anyone has any questions on it for Mr. Galvin.
This all makes sense in my opinion.
I think it's what we originally, or you originally decided.
Well, I
Really?
think the committee originally decided. There was some, what had happened was there was, the intent of the accessory bylaw change was to allow accessory apartments by right, and it was determined by the committee to allow that in R2, R3, and R4, and then keep it the same special permit in R1. The intent behind that was so that by changing it to the language for the setbacks versus the lot size, was to make sure that we could accommodate people whose home may be smaller lot size wise, as long as they met the requirements of the setbacks, they could be allowed, versus having the new 3/4 of an acre, which is, you know, what it is now for R1. Okay, so that was the premise behind it. And then as far as the language changes, there's some cleanup things to make sure that in item 5, that the building inspector could have the right to go in and inspect, and if he wasn't allowed that right to inspect, then you would lose the right to maintain it. And then there was a couple of small minor changes to make sure that the correct language was read under item 1 and M, because where we had establishing the change in the sentence above R1, we had to make sure that this wording was right. Okay, so.
Can I just ask one quick question? Like number, for the R1, the special permit, the following criteria, are those criteria going to model the criteria down below, or were they a little different because they would be special permit criteria?
What happens was, the committee had decided to go through and continue with R1 by special permit.
Yep, makes sense.
The premise behind that was so that there wouldn't be an influx of people trying to convert to what could be deemed or considered a two-family, even though they're not. It's an accessory use. And then there was other structures or other areas in the districts where R2, 3, and 4, where it will be allowed by right, because a lot of those have smaller lots. the thought process behind the committee was a lot of the R1, the newer stuff in R1, would be able to meet the lot size, and to ensure that it would meet the lot size, it was by special permit. So, and that was voted on unanimously at the committee meeting prior to tonight's meeting. So, that didn't really change. It was just trying to clean up the language.
But and these criteria that are like listed for the R2, R3, and R4, like are they, like I just don't remember, like are they basically the same criteria for the special permit as well, generally speaking?
Actually, I think they're a little less
Okay.
than what would normally be, and that's kind of logical, because the R1 is basically your single-family residence district.
Yep, okay.
And the other districts allow 2 families and sometimes even more, so.
Got it, okay.
So that does seem logical that there might
Yep.
even be a little bit more regulation in that R1 district.
Understood. Thank you.
And I think that was it, as far as I know. Anyone else have any questions?
Motion to approve?
Second.
All those in favor? That's unanimous vote. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, sir. Bob, nice job.
You're welcome. Thank you very much.
While Bob was here, I was going to do one last thing with Bob. There was a question at the last meeting about the Mullins rule, and I know that it caught everybody a little bit off guard of what it was. And I did some research on it as well when I got back, and I had asked Bob when he was here if he could at least explain it to the board to clarify it.
Sure. So, over the course of several years, it became pretty evident that boards, multi-member boards that were having adjudicatory hearings that stretched over a period of months sometimes, oftentimes had a board member that couldn't attend or became ill or was away for whatever reason. And there actually was a case down at Brewster with the Planning Board of Brewster where a board member had actually missed a meeting and potentially could have resulted in the entire hearing process and the resulting decision being void. So a rule that started from case law called the Mullins Rule was basic.
It doesn't have anything to do with me.
No, it has nothing to do with Michael Mullen. Basically, was the result of that case. And it allowed a board member who was involved in an adjudicatory proceeding who had missed a meeting to participate as long as they affirmed that they had read the meeting transcript or watched an audio or video of the meeting and reviewed all the evidence, and they continued to vote and the decision wasn't effective. So that's been codified and into state law, and if the town so chooses to adopt it, we could adopt this provision of the law and allow a board member on an adjudicatory board to miss a meeting and affirm and certify that they've read all of the information that was supplied, either look at a audio, video, or a transcript of the meeting and participate without disqualifying themselves from participating in the decision-making process. So I've drafted for potential consideration sometime an article to adopt this provision of the general law, Chapter 39, Section 23D, and along with an explanation, and that's available to you when and if you decide to offer that as a town meeting article. That would have to be adopted at town meeting in order for the town to accept that and apply that rule. It's not otherwise available. And by the way, the board member can only miss one meeting.
You can only miss one meeting?
Only one meeting in
It
that
can't be the last
adjudicatory-
meeting, right?
It can't be the last meeting. Or you
No, I
wouldn't-
just want to make sure there's no decision's going to be made, then the guy comes in afterwards and says,
No.
you know, I mean, oh, I was there for every
No.
other
And
meeting.
and
but
by the way,
that
it
one."
doesn't affect the quorum rule either. You still have to have a quorum of your board present.
Yeah, no, present at the building, right?
Correct. So if there was neither a quorum or the person that was missing missed the last meeting, you have a potential issue.
It would actually help benefit some boards in town that don't have alternates. I mean, such as conservation, or planning boards, because what happens a lot of times, if you have an applicant comes before the board and for some reason they don't have enough members, then they can't take action on it, and sometimes they may, it puts things behind for not only the board, but for the applicant. We could utilize it potentially for our board if we needed to. We could utilize it for boards such as like the Board of Health if they had to vote on something. The zoning board could certainly utilize it. But again, it's only good for one meeting. Everyone has to be cognizant of the fact it's only for one meeting. So, you know, everyone's volunteers, and sometimes things happen. You miss a meeting, or you know, you run late at work or something, and it happens.
I've already placed this in the folder for the following town meeting. I don't know that it constitutes an emergency, but there are provisions whereby boards can reopen annual town meetings, and we'd have to check as to whether or not we could do that.
Is there a certain amount of time in which they have to review that information
Prior to the next
prior
session.
to the next session?
Yeah, because you'd only miss one.
Yeah.
So if you showed up at the next session, you would have to affirm at the beginning of that next adjudicatory session that you've read or heard the transcript or the meeting minutes, and
And you'd have
then
to
you could
actually sign
participate.
an affidavit or a form of.
We
such
actually
that
have a
you've done.
standardized form that we use in some of the other communities that I represent, where the board member signs that and submits it as a part of the record, in case there's ever an appeal.
So,
Larry?
so we have a meeting at the zoning board, and I'm not there, and then the next meeting comes, and we're all set to make a decision, and the guy who wasn't there comes in and says, he can't make decisions, right?
Today, that's the practice.
No, if he misses, there's only 2 meetings, he misses one, he can't come in prior to the next meeting and read all the minutes, attend the second meeting, and then vote?
That's not allowed today.
Okay, but it would be allowed under that rule.
It would be allowed under that rule.
Mr. Ryan, they would have to submit, sign an affidavit that they either watched the video, listened to the audio, or read a transcript of that meeting prior to going into the next meeting.
And this covers all boards?
Any board that's acting in any type of an adjudicatory capacity. So let me give you some example. I mean, obviously, the 2 land use boards that
Yeah.
they're very logical, but the Board of Health could have a transfer station hearing. Sometimes those go for a long time. Board of Selectmen could have a earth removal situation. I'm trying to think of circumstances. Be less likely for your board. Conservation Commission meetings could go on for multiple meetings. They're another board that would benefit by it.
So what about, you know, for example, like Finance Committee, where the person that doesn't attend comes back and votes after the fact and creates a deadlock?
Well, see, here's the issue, that those aren't adjudicatory hearings,
Yeah.
so that doesn't
Okay.
apply to them.
Okay, so it doesn't apply.
So they could
to
actually
this,
miss a
okay.
meeting and then come back and vote.
Sure.
It's usually the boards that have to have a public
Oh,
hearing.
public hearing, okay.
Correct.
All right, I missed that part, yep.
Attorney Galvin, could you
Yeah.
clarify, are review of meeting minutes sufficient?
Transcript.
Transcripts, because you
Correct.
said meeting minutes earlier, I just want to make
Well-
sure that transcripts is what we're talking about, right?
It does, the statute says transcripts, transcripts. So, you know, some of the town boards actually do record their meetings. Some have done it at times, and at other times they haven't. But, you know, in those cases, it really would have to be the recording.
Yeah, I don't believe that this constitutes, and I apologize unless the board chooses, and we can look into opening up the town warrant this year, but this is too late for this year's annual town meeting, nor does it constitute an emergency. However, in preparation for next year's maybe acceptance, we've already put in a call to Dave, who was here, and he is checking into his ability to record meetings downstairs and upstairs, and whether or not we would have the audio and/or video. Certainly, if it's of such an important nature, you could cause a petitioner to pay for having transcripts done. We went through transcripts at the Rent Control Committee. They actually sat down, and we had somebody sitting there, a stenographer, taking the notes, because at some points it did get a little hairy or rambunctious, or however you want to say. So for the record, you know, it's not just abbreviated minutes, it's a transcript or an audio or video, and the person can only miss one during the deliberation. I mean, some of these hearings go on over the course of 6 meetings. So
And again,
we'd be prepared by next year.
I wanted to make sure that the board understood.
Yeah.
That's why I'd asked Mr. Galvin to explain it to everybody.
Okay.
and for the benefit of the audience at home as well, because I know with the chairman with the last name Mullen, we didn't know if he was going to get a new article that night, so.
Yeah, it was-
There you go.
you know, the news was here, it just bad.
But now we at least know what it was. And I did some research on it myself, and actually some case law, if you go back to it, tied to a case of Martin versus Rockland going back to 1970. That's listed if you actually go on the state website and follow back through it. So it's interesting that we, you know.
Larry Ryan was here.
You're on the board then?
96.
A little bit before your time. Any questions, Mr. Gelman, while he's here? Bob?
No.
Thank you, Bob.
You're welcome.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Bob.
Okay, getting back to the agenda items. Number 3, we have the wall that heals, the Vietnam War Memorial, Veterans Agent, Vinnie.
Thank you for letting me speak tonight. So the Wall That Heals is coming to Union Point in Weymouth on Wednesday, July 25th through July 29th. There's a South Shore Friends of the Wall That Heals is putting it on, and the VSOs from Weymouth, Abington, and Rockland are supporting them. We are still working out the logistics for ceremonies, and they will be open 24 hours when they finally open, so it'll be 24 from Wednesday night up until Sunday morning. There will be some ceremonies. I don't know what the logistical, we're still working that out, so as soon as I get that information, I'll pass it on. And it's not gonna cost us any money, because they're raising all the money from outside funds, so that's a good thing. So-
No, the 24-hour thing is good too, because I've been in another, actually had the ability to go visit one another community, and it was 24/7 as well.
So the 24 hours really is that one veteran that doesn't like to be around people, but wants to visit the wall because he has friends on the wall, and it gives him time for him to grieve in front of the wall, which is what this wall actually does. And this is a new wall, so it's actually engraved, so people can take etchings. If they have a family, a friend, or a loved one that's on the wall, they can actually etch the name, with a piece of paper. So it's going to be a good thing. It's going to be, hopefully, it's like we get a good turnout. But it's definitely, we're going to also recognize Vietnam veterans at the wall. On Saturday, I think we're going to have a Vietnam veteran ceremony also. So, and I will keep you informed when I get more information.
Okay, any questions?
All right, thank you.
Good,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Vinnie.
Okay, moving right along. Item number 4, Farmers Market update for the summer season. Jean?
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having us. I wanted to take this opportunity to introduce Robin Cook-Hills. She is taking over the farmer's market. We will definitely miss Michelle Finn, but Robin has already started great guns. She moves so fast, I can't even keep up with her. So we're here just to let you know that the farmer's market is going to kick off on June 22nd. It'll go till September 14th, and it's from 3 to 6 p.m. And do you have any vendors already?
Freitas Farms will be there the whole time. I actually heard from Cabot Creamery. I had reached out to them because I saw them at South Station and did not realize that they were all local sourced milk to make all the products, so they're interested in it. We have Bailey O'Reilly will be kicking off for entertainment, and then middle of the year, and then he's closing us out. So he's there for 3. Trish from the Everything Rockland Facebook, she's going to be there the whole time. We have people interested in the Kids Bids table, so we're going to have kids there as well. I'm trying to get a hold of my egg guy to see if I can get him to come. But we probably have about 10 to 12 people who are committed to at least some of the time. At this point, what I need to do is reach out again and then just get confirmations from them. But lots and lots of interest. If you went to the website and the Facebook site, lots of people, lots of interacting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and this year we'll actually be able to accept, what is it called? Robin?
The WIC,
EBT.
yes.
Yes,
I
EBT.
registered,
Yep,
so I
so we're
signed up
ready-
the other day,
yeah.
so we're all set and registered, ready to go, and
Yep.
weather permitting.
Hopefully we'll be going to a conference on Thursday, although it's not looking very good.
Yeah, I'm in Worcester, and it's an all-day-long conference, actually to show you a workshop on how to run a farmer's market. So
Yeah.
to give us some
Marketing
information.
and contacts, and we joined the Farmers Market, Massachusetts Farmers Market Association, so our name is now out there. So when you Google our name, it should come up as Rockland Farmers Market, which is great.
And we have an expanded outdoor plaza there now, with the
Yeah,
residential working lot.
we're very excited about that.
Yeah.
We've already been out there measuring, in case anybody's seen the two crazy ladies in
Out
their
there.
hooded.
And I was actually out there the other day when I went to pay my excise and water bill, kind of double checking my design and making sure I had drawn it accurately. So there's a lot of excitement and energy for it, and I'm looking to kind of outsource and get a lot of different vendors this year, different kinds, and then advertise the Wazoo on Facebook, so.
How are we for Rockland-based vendors? Vendors specifically from the town?
Well, we do have Jenny B's Pretzel
Mhm.
Cookie coming
Yep.
back.
Lula
LuLaRoe.
Row,
Yeah.
Blue Birch,
Yep, and then we'll have the fourth floor artists, they'll be
Yes.
coming back.
and a number of them are interested in going. There are a couple other farms I've reached out to, and it's kind of the beginning of the season for them, and they're local ones, and so most of them said the end of March, call us back because they were kind of closed.
Some
so.
organic farming. And then we've had some local residents. We're also up here to ask that you waive the peddler's fee again this year, like you did last year. It helped us out. I think it helped everybody. I think it helped the farmers out too. They don't make a ton of money, and we do ask for them to pay a fee, which helps pay Robin.
I'll make a motion.
Second that.
All those in favor? It's okay.
Great, thank you. Any other questions? Nope, thank you.
Nice job, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Gene, great job as always.
Okay, next up on the agenda, item number 5, the ambulance abatements. Chief Duffy?
Good evening, Board. It's another quarterly time of the year again. Actually, this time I'm asking for a 4-month abatement. We missed coming to you last month. So again, ambulance abatements for contractual fees that we cannot collect per law, and they total $310,099.76.
I make a motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
I'm abstaining, as I always do, because my wife works for the fire chief. Just want
Works with.
disclosure.
Works with.
Work with.
Works with.
Well,
And just, while I was up here, if I could just indulge the agenda a little bit, is if you had any questions on the past storms we've had, or, looks like tomorrow, they're lessening the amounts, storms staying a little bit more south, heading more east than north, which is great. So they're kicking the amounts down a little bit. Still gonna be a heavy wet snow with high winds, so still likelihood of power outages, so people could just be aware of that. And if you had any questions on these past storms while I'm here, great time to
No,
ask.
I missed the last meeting, but I did want to shout out to all the departments for a great job that they did and what you've done. And I know
Everybody's
you
done
had
great.
communicated with everybody, and communication's a big part of it. And also the residents, for the patients. I know it's tough when you don't have the opportunity to have power, and everyone thinks that power is a constitutional right, but it's really not.
No,
And,
in the past storms, we had very little complaints. Those that were complaining had, legitimate complaints. We worked on them. We worked with National Grid to get, people out to them. And also, they stayed off the streets, which is a big help for the Park Department and the Highway Department to get the roads clear.
Well, the other thing I think that people don't realize is that power lines run through neighboring communities. And even if we're diligent and we go through and make sure that our tree trimming's done to prevent, tree limbs and branches from coming down on power lines, we need to ask our neighboring communities to do the same, because let's face it, if something goes down in a neighboring community because they didn't do the same tasks, you know, it ultimately affects us because the line carries through.
Correct.
And if it breaks in their town, well, it's broken in our town because it's not connected. And I know that was the case in some situations, and actually in another, there was another pole that went down in Abington, I believe, that affected part of the community as
And
well.
that's what, for most of our major power outages, when we've had large areas out, it's been due to transmission lines being broken in other areas of the South Shore, so yes.
The only good news was, because we actually had a couple of those storms, a lot of the weak trees and stuff had already come down,
Yeah,
so.
I like you
It seems to
thinking.
be lessening, you know?
You're an optimist,
Yes.
yeah.
Let's-
So you have
let's
to be an
hope for that.
optimist,
You're
right?
an optimist,
Yes.
But, no, I mean, with snow, I mean, who would have thunk that March we'd have 4 northeasters coming in? I mean, we thought we were out of it in February. I mean, everyone was walking around, we had a 60-some-odd degree day, and it was, you know, everyone had spring in the air.
Yeah.
Today's the first day of spring, and we're worried about a snowstorm. So
Snowstorm tomorrow, and then another 2 in the barrel, according to the models, so let's pray for rain.
There you go.
Thanks for the good news.
but we appreciate it, and keep up the good work.
Nope, thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Okay, moving right along. Item number 7, streetlight conversions. Mr. Chalker, this is something that's been passionate to me since I first joined the board.
Well, you had, when you first got on the board, you talked about it and things were able to come to fruition for us. I gave you a few of the pages out of the quote-unquote investment grade audit that we received in the contracts that we've signed. But the highlights are that we anticipate by sometime in May that the streetlight conversion will take place. It should mean better, longer, brighter lights at a substantial savings to the town. We are adding lights in a few of the areas along Union Street where it has been dark for ages. Beyond that, a couple of things that have worked to our advantage. We were able to receive a $32,000 grant from NGrid through Mass Save and a $29,000 grant through MAPC and Division of Energy for a total of $61,000 off of our costs. The projected cost had been about $202,000, which reduces our total cost down around $145,000. The actual payoff in savings, and that's how we do everything when we do the ROI or return. When we're all done on our return on investment, is about 2.1 years for the actual cost, which we appropriated last year out of the free cash. So when we're all done, we're hoping to save somewhere between $50,000 and $70,000 per year, which would pay off the $145,000 over the course of just over 2 years. We're hoping and planning, provided installation goes as planned, that even the budget that you passed and sent on to the Finance Committee, I've been talking to Eric, and I feel as though we can safely reduce that line item by about $50,000, so that's going to certainly help in this year's budget. So in the past, if you've heard me making my budget presentations and bragging about the fact that we haven't had an increase in our electrical budget in 5 years, we're actually reducing it now by $50,000. At least that's the recommendation we're going to make to the Finance Committee, and I assume they'll make to town meeting. So we're doing what we can to save on energy, but I wanted to bring that to the board and let you know that we're looking at a May installation, and that was just some of the backup. It's one of the things we're, as you know, continually looking for those areas where we can save some funds.
And I think the technology has come that much further since the time I've been on the board, so it's something to look forward to. Okay, thank you. Moving on to item number 8. We need to open the special town meeting warrant and only open the warrant. So,
According to the schedule, Mr. Chairman, we are opening the town warrant, and we want to close, I apologize, I'm trying to pick the day off of our schedule here.
April 2nd.
April 2nd, right. So if the motion would be to open the special town meeting warrant to close at 11 a.m. on April 2nd, and then you would review that on at your April 3rd meeting and forward that.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? It's a unanimous vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up, item number 9, the town election warrant. Mr. Chalker.
Annually, we have to warn the inhabitants of the town of Rockland, so this is our annual warning that the annual town election is on April 14th this year. To one and all constables of the town of Rockland, County of Plymouth, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, greeting in the name of the Commonwealth. You are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town qualified to vote in elections, to vote at precincts 1, 2, 3, and 4, the John Rogers, W. Rogers Middle School Gymnasium, 100 Taunton Ave, precincts 5 and 6, the R. Stewart Eston School Gymnasium, 733 Summer Street, on Saturday, the 14th day of April 2018, between the hours of 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. to cast their votes at the annual town election for the election of candidates for the following offices: 1 selectman for 3 years, 1 town clerk for 3 years, 1 town collector for 3 years, 1 town treasurer for 3 years, 1 member of the Board of Assessors for 3 years, 1 member of the Board of Assessors for 1 year, 1 member of the Board of Health for 3 years, 1 housing authority member for 5 years, 2 library trustees for 3 years, 1 park commissioner for 3 years, 1 planning board member for 5 years, 2 school committee members for 3 years, 1 sewer commissioner for 3 years, and 1 water commissioner for 3 years. You are hereby directed to serve this warrant by posting the attested copies in each of the 6 precincts no later than 7 days preceding said election. Hereof, and fail not, make return of this warrant with your doings thereon for the town clerk at the time and place of said election. The warrant is in the back. It's dated, I believe, today, and if you haven't signed it, please do so before you leave the building this evening. And we do a return of service, we get it certified, but we have performed our duty to read into the record the election warrant. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Next up on the agenda, we have item number 10, the town administrator's report and correspondence.
There are a couple of items that I wanted to report to the board. At the last meeting, the board voted to have a year-round parking ban on Union Street. Notification is going out by mail. We assembled a list of everyone who is registered as living on Union Street through the town clerk's office and the census information that we have. We have also, with the assessor's office, we are notifying all property owners. In addition, we are going to erect some signs along Union Street saying no overnight parking. There'll be a press release, and we'll also post it on the website, and we'll use, of course, the electronic bulletin board out front, which also cannot be on all night on the street. That will be going out. There is a $25 fine. The residents will not be allowed to park any vehicle on that section of Union Street between Howard Street and North Ave from 1:30 to 5 a.m.
Vernon Street in North Ave?
Vernon Street, excuse me. Yes. I said Howard. Also, Town Clerk Donna Shotall has asked me to announce that the absentee ballots for the April 14th town election are now available at the town clerk's office, and that you may vote, anyone listening, you may vote here at Town Hall between the hours of 8:30 and 4:30, and on the first and third Tuesdays of the month. I think there's only one more coming, April 3rd, until 8 p.m. Voting is available at Town Hall only until noon on Friday, the day before the election, Friday the 13th. Residents can request an absentee ballot if they will be absent from town during the hours that the polls are open, or have a physical disability preventing them from going to the polls, or a religious belief that prevents them from voting in person. Voters can request ballots be mailed to them by sending a written and signed request to the town clerk here at 242 Union Street. And again, that is from Donna Shotall, the town clerk. Our normal business hours. Right now, we are still, of course, watching the weather for tomorrow, but letting people know absentee ballots are available now. We received an announcement notice last week, and we were pleased to receive the award this morning of a $15,000 grant, an additional grant for consultant services to assist the town of Rockland with short and long-term strategies for the new downtown center organization. And that is a downtown initiative technical grant that we have received from the state, and Karen Polito actually made the presentation to about 20 communities today out in, I'm not sure what town. Marlboro. I know Selectman Mullen, you were planning on going?
It was, yes, but I had work conflict.
Yeah. So that was through the Department of Housing and Community Development, but it should certainly help our downtown revitalization efforts and reimagine Rockland. So we are pleased to have received yet another award grant to use downtown, and that is the extent of my comments.
Thank you. Selectmen's comments. Comments and opinions expressed by the individual members do not necessarily reflect the views of the Board of Selectmen. Now, the opinions and comments of only the individual member. With that, Mr. Laughlin.
Oh, thank you. I just want to thank everybody that came out a couple weeks ago for Restaurant Week. I haven't got a full recap on it yet. I'm still getting around to some of the restaurants that participated. But overall, despite the fact that, 87% of the town was out of power for the first couple days of it, I think it was well attended. There's some good positive feedback and some things that we can learn from for when we run this next year. And hopefully next year, the goal will be to do it twice, do it once in the winter and once in the summer as well, to further assist the businesses in town. A couple other things that we've been working on, stay tuned. There are a few new businesses that will be coming to Rockland Center. I'm not going to get into them specifically, but have had some conversations with some people that have taken out papers to sign leases in a couple of the buildings. So some new businesses coming downtown, and that's what our goal has been. So hopefully we're getting there.
Thank you. Ms. Hall?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to mention that Rockland Youth Basketball is going to be wrapping up their season with their Super Saturday on March 24th. During the day, the league will crown 4 championship teams, which is the Girls Junior League, Boys Junior League, and Boys and Girls Senior Leagues. They're going to honor those who show true Bulldog spirit and through their Hustle Award. We're going to look at our youngest players in the instructional program, see what they've been working on all winter. There's going to be a junior and senior free throw shooting competition. Senior players will also do a 3-point contest. 8th graders will cap off their basketball careers with an all-star game. That should be actually pretty exciting. And this, of course, the highlight of the night will be the volunteer coaches game, of which I will be playing. And we'll take our talents to the court and finish off the day laughing and hopefully without being injured. There's also raffles that are being pulled. There'll be a concession stand staffed by members of the Rockland High School senior class, with all proceeds going to the class to fund class activities and the senior class gift. It starts at 8:30 a.m. and wraps up at 5, and it's between some of the events are in the middle school and some are in the high school. All day. Saturday. Super Saturday.
What time's your game?
It's at 4. It's at 4. Please come. Yes, it'll be. I haven't played last time I played, I blew out attendance, so let's hope that doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Ryan?
Let's see, the Recreation Committee, we met the other night and had an open meeting at the Senior Center. Thanks to Peg Bryan for always doing a great job over there to help us out. And basically, we had quite a few people, a lot more than I expected to show up, come talk about the different parts of the recreational and open space things that we have around town. It's just part of the process, and Ralph Wilmer, who's from Metropolitan Area Planning Council people, is going to put together this plan, and we should have it by next month and hopefully be able to vote on it. It's pretty extensive. It talks about the whole town. It's long and boring mostly, quite honest with you, but it does give it does give you the ability to look through and see what we have to offer the young people in the town of Rockland. There was some talks about kids' playgrounds and lack thereof, and ability to have ADA accessible and things like that. So most of the people that were there were pretty well informed and about what's going on in their town and how they want to work to fix it, I guess. So that went pretty well, and Ed was there and a few other people in the town, so it really went well. Other than that, I just want to say hi to the high school sports teams, the basketball, the girls, the boys, the hockey team. You guys represented Rockland really well this year, as you always do, and it's always nice to see good things in the paper about the young men and women in Rockland participating in sports and working hard to be successful for not just themselves, but the town and their friends and students alike. With that, I think I'm done.
Okay. Mr. Mullen?
I'll be
Thank you,
very
Larry.
quick this evening. First of all, picking up where Mr. Chuck left off, I also, in terms of the Mass Downtown Initiative Grant, I want to once again thank Marcy Birmingham for her work like in running that grant. I spent some time with Marcy writing it, I think during the month of October, and you know, like we chatted out like where we were with Reimagine Rockland, like where we hope to take it forward, and I talked about the need, the continued need right now for the consultant we had over the summer to make sure we're organized in a very sustainable fashion that also involved and placed a real big emphasis on involving the business community here in town. So with a lot of the funding we got from the grant, we're going to be able to bring back our consultant and have her continue working with us to lead our effort forward. So that's extremely exciting because you know, continuing to create an organization that like is really sustainable, that can survive on volunteers, like and move forward is really important. Secondly, on the same note, I just want to mention that next week, Thursday the 29th at 7 p.m. at the Senior Center, we'll be having a like a Reimagined Rockland quarterly public meeting where we'll hear from the chairs of each of the 5 subcommittees, but also probably like even more important than that, we'll hear from the director of, I believe, Beverly Main Streets is the organization. Beverly, if anyone knows Beverly, up on Cabot Street in Beverly, they've been working to do the same thing that we've set out to do, and they've been quite successful. And so we're having the director of the Beverly group actually come down like and share with us you know, some ideas at work, some of the similarities that both Rockland and Beverly face. We don't have any waterfront areas other than Reed's Pond, but you know, I'm sure there were other similarities. But so that should be exciting. And so again, next Thursday, the 29th, at 7 o'clock at the Senior Center, for like anyone in town who's been part of who has been a part of Reimagine Rockland, or who wants to join and is still interested. And with that, I will stop talking because I probably sound like a fool. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Mullen. And by the way, thank you for taking the meeting over. Last meeting that was here, you did a good job. And I think the town's in a very good space right now. We can tell by the amount of audience members here. But all kidding aside, I did attend. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yep.
There you go. All by ourselves, we want to be.
I did attend that meeting, and actually it was enlightening because I wasn't. I actually learned a little bit. There was an individual, a resident there at that meeting, who actually talked about the fact that we have a lack of playgrounds in town for younger children, and you know, something I don't think about because my youngest child is 23, so you really don't think of that. But it was nice to go and see that other people had different needs and wants of the community with regards to utilizing recreation. There was a lot of different ideas there, and you could actually go and vote. I'm curious to see how the voting went with the dots. They passed out dots to all the members, and you're able to vote on, so you could rate certain projects that they had presented to the community. So I think that was kind of cool that you had a little bit of input from the people who went as well. And we all know about the storms and the power losses, and I hope that Restaurant Week was successful. I was on vacation that week, so, and I like to eat, so I kind of missed out on that, so I hope you do have another one.
Let me know if your vacation's going.
You know?
It was excellent.
And as far as the upcoming snowstorm, I know that, we've been hit a lot, but I think our town departments, our highway, park, and school department employees, and fire department, police department, and employees have all been pulling well together. You talk to other people, and Rockland by far has seemed to have the best roads around after the storm. The power, again, we thank the people from National Grid and NSTAR, Eversource, and all the other contractors who come out to support the area. I mean, because honestly, we don't know, we take a lot of things for granted, and power is one of those things. I mean, you think back some of the people in Puerto Rico who are still without power, unfortunately. So we're very fortunate, 2-3 days I know seems like a long time, but they're going on months. So we're very fortunate that way. Hopefully we get out of this one, we dodged the bullet. I know that school had sent out a notice earlier that they're gonna be closing early and dismissing early and no nighttime activities tomorrow night. And I know Dave's anxious to get out of here, so I'll keep it short as well. Thank you, Mr. Moore. We do have an executive session tonight for contract negotiations with the town administrator. So we're gonna need someone make a motion.
I'll make a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of contract negotiations with the town administrator and not to reconvene.
Second.
All those in favor, it's a voice vote?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Thank you. And thank you all for tuning in tonight.